tip it over, I could go way down here like this, but that's too far. So I want to go to about right here. I want to hang on to the back. Somebody give me a drum roll? No, I'm just kidding. I like the sound of that. Oh yeah. I call that money. And it's still got some issues in it. So this is what they could do with a giant chunk of rock is, you know, you could drive these big this is called a spall flake, you could drive these off, and then inside of here, if you do it right, you will have what they call a center cut. So out of this big piece here, I could get maybe 8 or 9 more of these, or, you know, a few smaller, because there's different sizes of tools you're gonna need, okay? So you could get some of these, and then you'll have this, you'll have a giant biface left in the center. So that's how I was taught to do it, and the Indians did it the same way.
Yeah, do you keep going that way, or do you start on this?
Yeah, you've got to keep this some type of an angle right here. Got to keep some type. I'll take one more flake off. It's not going to be wide. I want to take this ridge off, and this is the whole key to flint knapping, is to follow these high ridges out to the center. So I'll take this ridge off and get a blade here and pass it around. I will dull it first. There again, I got my finger back here. It's kind of like sighting a rifle. Rear sight, front sight. Because I can't go over here and hit. Can't go over here and hit. I want to hit in line with that ridge. I missed it. That's a good flick to show something else though. There's a point right there, guaranteed. Point right there, and it's a good point. This is the Cal Sydney that I dig at Nethers. This is some of the highest grade that I've dug in a long time. Now, we're done with that for a while.
From there, will you do any more percussion?
Yes, so we're gonna make a point for you, so. Guess what? It'll keep cutting. It'll keep cutting. So the Indian, now one thing I don't find at Flint Ridge when I'm digging in all this debitage is French for waste. I don't find these blades. Wonder why. They took these with them. All of them, we call them spall flakes. You know, when I'm sitting there and I trim my material, because I pay for my flint like everybody else, but the family has let me choose the best stuff because I'm looking for the best knapping rock I can find. They'll let me, for not charging them, they let me pick out the good stuff. But I don't find these in the mix. I'll find the odd pieces like that, you know, you find a lot of that, a lot of these smaller pieces. I mean, there's been buckets I've dug down in, it's almost 95% flint flakes left behind from ancient man. I've dug down and dug, you know, I was digging kind of back, cleaning the wall, and there, lo and behold, I could see a U shape, and I thought, well, there's an old pit. Well, guess what? It was full of fine flint flakes, and they weren't new; they were all old. So I just I took pictures of it, you know, and I didn't dig anymore. But it was funny because the first little bucket, they all just poured out. I was like, cool. So I get to see what they were using, you know, found a couple smaller hammerstones. But yeah, this was, this blade here with just a little dulling over here. How many have ever found a blade like this out in the field that exhibits some wear use or maybe some little pressure flakes on the edges and stuff? And that's sharp. About the same. Now, they didn't have copper. The Hopewell had copper, we know that. And we know the Adena had it as well. There has been found these copper balls. They're so corroded, but one of them exhibited battering. Now, what were they doing that with? That's my take. There's a couple mounds. They called them, they were used bone or antler, and they had like an awl in them. Oh, these are copper awls. but they weren't that long. They were only about that long, and they looked like a .22 caliber bullet. And I think that was a pressure flaking tool. That's my take on it. Like I said, they utilized. Everybody's like, well, the Indians didn't use copper. Technically, they did. We don't know. We weren't there. You know. So I don't get into arguments right there. So just right above that copper mark, this flake detached. Okay, because I had a downward angled flint, you know, or dangled hit, and that knocked this flake off, this big long spall flake. So what we got, if you notice when you take it out, there's a ball, like a bulge right here on this flake. Can you everybody see that? See the bulge? And here is a negative, it's a concavity. So where this comes out, this is that Hertzian cone I was talking about. This is part of that 130 degrees of my strike when I hit, and kind of hit maybe in the center of that Hertzian cone off just a little bit, but it detached this flake. So this is called the bulb of percussion. So sometimes you find a flake out in the field, if it has one of these, it's where they struck a flake off, and that is called the bulb of percussion.
You can actually feel that.
Yeah, you can feel it.
can
Now
run
I
your
will
hand
dull,
over it.
I will dull this so you can pass it around. But be careful because it is flint and you can cut yourself. You know, I see guys go, how sharp is it? Oh, it's really sharp. You got a Band-Aid? Come on, people. It's common sense, right? I will dull so you can pass it around. So this is the positive portion of the bulb. The concavity is the negative portion of the bulb. This rock worked out good because I can still take this in and saw it and get some nice slabs out of it. So here we go. We'll dull this up. Trying to get some universal shape. You know, this isn't much use over here, and I'll probably trim some of that off. But I got a big concavity here, and I got a big hump here. What is that again? This hump? Bulb of percussion. Very good. Somebody's listening. There'll be another quiz at the end. 15-question pop quiz.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
I'll let you know when the quiz is coming. So anyhow, I'm just trying to think, how can I get what I need out of here? So we're gonna trim it with this, and then I'll probably take a couple flakes off with the antler and the hammerstone. And if you see, I'm tipping it up and I'm kind of pressing down in my leg, because I don't want it out here flopping around. And hear that? That's a good sound. That's a high-grade piece of stone that has a lot of silica in it, and the more silica, the easier it chips. So feel free to fire away at questions.
How long does the rock stay workable once you take it out of the ground?
This,
Yeah.
well, I take this home and I put it in a pottery kiln. Now, in the quarry, I might take that chunk. So I've taken big chunks before and driven 8-inch spall flakes off of there that are like this, and ended up with a center cut. And everybody's like, "Man, just take it home and saw it." And I said, "Man, that's a day and a half of sawing. I'm not doing that. I can do it here, and with my little copper hammer, I can do what I need to do." So as it goes home, I let it dry in the buckets for a couple of days, and I stick it in a pottery kiln. Program it to go up 50 degrees an hour. It's computer controlled. Goes up 50 degrees an hour till I hit 212. What happens at 212? Water boils. Very good. I was going to put that on the quiz, but I won't. So anyhow, no, it's not Celsius. It's not metric either here. So, but anyhow, so I hold it there for 5 to 8 hours. Hopefully it dries the stone out, gets rid of the moisture.
So you want it dry?
Oh, yeah, it's got to be dry if you heat it.
Well, but you were talking about earlier that they worked it when it was wet.
They
because
did.
It worked easier.
It does, but it doesn't work as easy as heated. So I sell a lot of knapping.
But it breaks.
Yes. Yeah, so it's a different animal when you're hitting the raw flint ridge chalcedony. It's almost elastic. You can smack it pretty good, and it'll drive off flakes. That's why they liked it. But yet, they must have got like me. It's harder to nap when you get older. So, yeah, but heating was just easier to what they were, and I've come back just like we did on the big piece before. So I'm gonna hit this lip. This lip sticks out is a platform. So that's what we wanna hit down on. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because if I hit a sharp edge with this stone, it will shatter. There's not enough strength. This is almost like hitting, we call this the rib or the ridge. It gives it strength for the flake to detach. Remember, some of this I said I know I'm not gonna be able to use it. This is some of it. And believe it or not, most of the points you find out of Flint Ridge, I'm gonna say on the average, are probably no more than 3.5 to 4 inches in length. Just Flint Ridge does not come out in ginormous pieces. There is some big stuff you find once in a blue moon. For the most part, comes out in small pieces. It's just the nature of the rock. Right now I'm taking off what's left of the bulb of percussion. There's a strike, it took out the part of the hump. Still have some left there. There's another razor blade, so.
And you see how this is leveling out on both
Yeah,
both
I
faces?
took that
That's
hump
what
off
he's
here, and
doing.
so the biggest thing is I don't wanna take a lot of shots in the middle. I need to take, looks to me like it's gonna be something like this, or maybe that right there. This area in here is what I'm gonna probably use, but right now we're gonna switch over to modern tools, copper. It's basically mid-range flakes, longer flakes, so. These are mid-range flakes right there, so. I already see the rock's got a little flaw in it. If you look right in there, it's hard, I know it's hard to see, but there's that dreaded, I call it superfine sugar line, so we're gonna see where that goes. This is just trimming and nibbling, because the rock has dealt me not a blow, not a setback, but Flint Ridge, it never gets boring. It'll always show you something hidden. And once in a blue moon, when I say blue, you get some of the nicest, prettiest, easy to hit rock, and it's only that big. You know, some of the most colorful pieces, I tell everybody, I say, well, as I'm trimming it in the quarry, I'll knock all the color off first. I tease them, they're going, oh, look how pretty it is. I said, when I get done with it, there ain't gonna be no color left on it. Because usually color's on the end, or, you know, the tip, or somewhere. So, oh, now we're seeing a crack in here. How nice. I see a lot of old points that had a lot of problems from, you know, the rock itself, and sometimes they got through it. And sometimes, I've been to north of Granville, there's a large area on this guy's farm when he plows and discs the field at night, especially disking, or working the ground with a cultivator or whatever. So it's like a light show. It's where they chipped for thousands of years on top of this knoll. And he said, man, I hate that place. Tears up all my equipment, dulls everything down. I said, yeah, but I said, you need to see it on the tractor. Oh, he said, oh man, it's not the sparks. It's just sparks rolling off those disc blades.
Yeah, if you did this at night, it would be spectacular.
He said he looked back the first night he ever seen it, he's like, oh my God. He said, it's kind of fun. He said, then when you see the damage it does to your disc blades. Yeah, so this piece is, and some of the guys I chip with, I'm not the only guy that does this, they call this Heartbreak Ridge instead of Flint Ridge. Because what happens is, you go through all this work, and then there's that hidden crack down inside, and it becomes, see right now there's a layer right in through here. It's hard, and it's really hard to see along my finger, right on top of that finger, there's that sugar seam. So I will try to get through it the best I can. I do down this way, then I flip it over, and you can see there's a little underlying ridge sticking down. That is my platform. And I tell people, if you don't hit the platform, you don't even try to flint nap. You know, I've turned a lot of guys into really good flint nappers, and I've only had one gentleman that he come back after a year and he threw his whole, he wanted a refund for his tools. And I said, I'm not refunding you. You bought them off of me, they're yours, sell them. Okay, you can have them, I'm done. And I said, I can't get it. And he was defeated. And I tried and tried and tried to give him encouragement, but. You want an outer pass?
If you can do, an outer pass is a flake that basically goes completely across the face of the blade there.
You tell me, did I do it?
It looks like it.
You got a pretty good one there. And while you're at it,
It come all the way across to here.
and that's a really important skill to have. So now, why don't you, once you show that, let's get out of the way.
So, I took this hump off. There's a hump right there. Look at my finger. I need to get it thinner. The smaller billet, that's what these are, billets wouldn't work. Didn't have enough horsepower. So, I used a bigger one. I set up a platform. You didn't notice it, but I felt my hand tipping up. And I don't change my swing. I try not to. I drove straight down on it, and changing this angle, I took this flake across. It knocked out a little bit so that's about as close as outer pass you can get. That means a flake going all the way across.
Yeah. And compare that, this is the typical flakes he was knocking off.
Yes. And I can make a serviceable bird point out of this. How many's ever found a bird point, small bird point, 1/2 inch long? It's like, wow, what'd they use that for? They taught kids how to do this stuff,
Now,
trust me.
Hold this up, just show them how much progress you've made towards that freeform.
So now this is truly a biface like this one, but this is closer to stage 4, and this is, like I said, stage 5, even into early 6. And there is no really set, well, you gotta go to this stage or that stage, but it just, here again, there's the flat flake I took off. Here, I'm going to move here up to towards the tip, and I'm going to take another one off right up in here.
So he's playing chess.
Not as far as I went before, but that's okay. I didn't need to go as far. There's pure biface right there.
That's pretty sweet.
And we've got it thinned. Now I can start doing some of the bringing in the tip. I'm not sure. This area right here is kind of what we call chattery. Kind of like the guy Flint Knapping. He chatters a lot, talks a lot. That's probably not going to make it, but we'll see. I'm thinking the tip has got to go up here. I was hoping the tip would go down here. So I'm going to start right now, and I'm saying, okay, this is going to be the base. And don't need as much horsepower now. And if you look at old points, you'll find that, I always call them the old guys. If you look at a profile, I'm gonna say 99% of old points, you hold it sideways, here's the tip, here's the base, that tapers down to that base. 2 reasons. One, to get the notches in, or for hafting purposes. I think they hafted into a lot of animal bones, like deer leg bones, river cane. There's plenty of river cane back there still is in some places down along the High River. And a simple stick, take a stick. Gary and I had this great discussion on how they made certain points like fractured bases. Split a handle, split a piece, carved it down into like, a handle, split it. You could have drilled holes through it and wrapped it, or glued it with, they had epoxy back then. Did anybody know that? They had epoxy. A couple of ways to make hide glue. You could boil down deer hooves, or you could melt them down and mix pine pitch with them, a little bit of charcoal, you have epoxy. A lot of guys will take pine resin, mostly, and then an equal part of real fine black charcoal ground up, mix the two together, maybe put a little bit of fiber in there. And where do they get the fiber? This guy makes good stuff. It's out of rabbit pellets. not the ones that eat, the ones that come out the other end. They're dried and they have fiber in them, so that helps it give it strength. But they could make this epoxy and set this down in there, have it grooved out, set it down in there, and then let it dry, and then wrap it with sinew. And the sinew comes out of the animal's legs and tendons along the back. So, there is the crack. Flint Ridge usually does, it makes you earn what you do. Am I right, Clint?
Pretty much.
Can have issues, can't it?
It certainly does.
I've never found yet a perfect rock to hit. And I've never made a perfect arrowhead. And I said, when I do, I'm gonna quit flint knapping. 33 years later, here I is, still doing it.
I don't believe you'd ever quit.
Like I said, I just say it's a God-given talent, and I can't draw. I was good at drafting in school. I went to vocational school in Knox County to learn how to be an auto mechanic. I ended up laying asphalt for 47 years. I was a business owner. There wasn't anything that in the tune of, I started out on a shovel and a tamper. Went to a business owner, got out of that, and went back to I was foreman for the next 40 years. But maybe not.
Yeah.
There we go. There is the dreaded sugar line. I can't let you grab that. Yeah, there's 2 there, that's for sure. I'm going to send this piece around. It broke. Again, watch out, this still could have enough sharpness to, somebody's always going, well, how sharp is it? Don't do that. You're going to look and see where I said it was chatter. You'll see on here there's a white layer, and this is a darker gray, and you'll see looks like almost like a glue on there, but that's that real fine sugar line. Send that around, and we're going to do is what we have to do a lot of times with Flint Ridge. Keep going. They did it for survival. I'm doing it for artwork.
You ever actually skin a deer out? With
Yes,
something?
ma'am.
Like totally?
Yes. I butchered one. So what I do when I get a deer, I'll gut it, and then I'll take it home and open it and air it out and get it cooled down good. And I'll skin the legs down, then I'll put cheesecloth over them, and I'll leave it hang for 4 to 5 days, weather permitting. Finish skinning it down. I've used a blade like that to skin with, and then I've taken a butcher blade like the big one I started with, that one I showed you we dolled out and sent around, And I will leave my deer hanging. I will start with the front legs and take those off. Then I'll work on the neck, then I'll take out some of the rib meat. I don't do much anymore, but I'll take out the loins, the inner loins, then, you know, now I just crank it off and handle it. Talking to everybody.
Sorry.
It's all right. We'll forgive you.
When did Indians start heat treating the Flint? Did paleos do it?
We don't for sure there. I can tell you that the Ohio dovetails, I have seen so many broken dovetails, and I've seen a lot of these have exhibited heat treating. The thing was, I don't think they're getting it as hot as we can in a pottery kiln.
Yeah.
It took us, you know, over 20 years to get it zeroed in, you know. And because we dig out enough of the raw material, we know what it looks like. We've dug it, you know, Roy Miller's dug so much of it that, well, that's dovetail rock, or that's Hopewell rock, you know, that's our slang. But the thing of it is, we've seen, and we've heat treated so much of it, we know what happens, and we've seen it in some of the dovetails, not all of them. A lot of dovetails were chipped raw, you know, unheated. The flakes are smaller, the flakes are thinner. That's why knocking down these big pieces is pretty easy. Because you're taking off bigger pieces, there's not as much finesse control in there. I'm working on one ridge right there, and I'm gonna have to say that's the best I can do.
Like this, if on a pan.
Nope, that's wrong, so.
You don't wanna go up the finger ridge and take it out.
No, these guys.
Now, is that a copper
I go
point there?
with
Yes.
Coming out of
That's
that?
piece of copper rod.
No,
And it's
I
not
buy it.
pure copper, because pure
They
copper is too
take it out.
soft. So this is alloyed with,
And take it home.
tin or
heat
aluminum.
treat it,
Slab.
this is where I need the drum roll. Ugh. All else fails, go big or stay home. Well, it met me in the middle. Can't complain. Bigger tool, bigger copper. Just typical Flint Ridge Flint. So when I come down here years ago and was down at Mound City, how many people's been to Mound City? Have you went through the museum part there where they have all the old points up on the wall and everything? I made those. I made the ones in the display case. They didn't want to put the old ones out on display.
Yeah.
And they are signed, but I've made a bunch of the big blades over the years for them. It was always a fascination of mine to see obsidian that came from out west all the way to Ohio to be transformed into some gigantic blade that no one could really figure out what they used them for.
Do you work the obsidian the same way?
Yep.
Same tools?
Yep, but I have to gear down. So like here, I'm in 5th gear. I have to go down to 3rd gear with obsidian because it chips. It's so much easier to flake.
What do you prefer to work with? What's your favorite?
Yeah, I'm working it. Flint
right.
Ridge.
Yeah.
Flint Ridge or good Coshocton or good Carter Cave. All pretty good, but I'm Flint Ridge. That's just, call me biased, but that's what I dig. And I guess I've chipped more of it than anything. Right now, I'm just doing some final shaping. Still got a little knot out there in the middle. It's being,
So that's what you call the pressure.
yeah, this is pressure flaking.
Yeah. That's always, you don't use the hammer, you just use it.
No, I don't use it as much as it is.
But creating the edge there now, is it?
I'm creating, hopefully, some platforms to, I gotta get a flake out there far enough into the center to take that, it's the remnant of, oh no, there's another sugar line in there, no wonder.
Oh, no.
Sugar lines, the dreaded sugar line. Well, we're just gonna have to work through it. It's gonna have a little high spot in it, that's all I can say.
And-
Fold again.
And Ed's gonna be putting sort of what we would call a corner notch on each side of
Yeah,
the
there'll be-
face of this blade, but other cultures put stems on them, sometimes they put side notching on them, sometimes they even notch them from the base, or they put lobes on the base, and they call those bifurcates, like the McCorkle bifurcates, stuff like that. But he's making a Hopewell style.
As time went on, napping changes. I've seen it in 30 plus years I've done. Now they're doing what they call indirect. They put a Delron rod with a copper bit in it, and strap it to their leg and stick the point out here and lift up and smack down. They're gonna come in, the notches will come in from each corner up into here, and then they'll open them up a little bit. Hopefully. I do have copper tools to get me through it all, so. I'd be lying if I told you I've done this in a while. I haven't done any antler work for a long time. It's kind of like riding a bike. You don't really forget. You want a good close-up, just get right up in here, Clint. Right in here so you can see. Hopewells generally have what we call body-looking notches. They're big and they're open, because I think this is what they were using. The dovetails, like all the dovetails on the high, I think they were used with a buffalo rib or some type of rib that's been halved and it's very narrow. And a lot of times we think they were taken and using indirect, punching notches in like that, because they exhibit that type of use. But like I said, I wasn't there, so all we can do is speculate.
How easy is it to break the base off when you get to that point?
I'm not answering that question because I'll jinx myself. No, it's not. I have done it numerous times.
Man.
And it's like all this work and then that happens. But I used to really get mad and frustrated, and now it's okay. I have a camera on my backside. No, it's not. Where'd he go?
Right here.
Oh, you're as bad as Gary was over there. Where's Gary at? I'm making sure your treasurer makes it around. He's my support, every time I look, he's not there. I can control better this way because I'm sitting right here on this edge and I'm pressing in or down and then go in. And these little flakes that come out look like a seashell. They're a C shape. We call them sea flakes, I guess. Oh, okay, there we got into some of that chattery. That's gonna be a typical Hopewell, I guarantee you. It'll just look like an old one. You see a lot of points and they're not perfect. One side they might have a big step fracture, a hinge fracture, or lopsided. Some of these guys, I think some of the makers was like, I'm just glad I got something out of it,
It's sharp.
And did all of them know how to flint nap? No. I'm not a doctor. Maybe there's a chiropractor around here. Maybe somebody's a professional chef. It's really no different than what we do. There's guys you had women who worked at this and women who worked at that. Guys hunted, guys did this, maybe helped with tanning leather and stuff. And you had flint nappers, Now, one thing I could show you after making some tools, I can show you how to resharpen it and, and how to make it, useful, how to shape it and stuff. Once you've got the original piece.
Then you think the individual guys just kinda.
Yeah.
Something got dull, broke, they took care of it.
Yep. So here's what happens today, and I tell this is, if we all went out and bought a case XX, all of us guys and gals, if we all bought a case XX knife, come back in 2 years and let's take a look at the blades. One guy never sharpens it. One guy maybe uses a file on it. One guy takes his to a grinding wheel, you know.
Yeah,
The other guy will use a hone stone. One guy cuts wire and everything else. It don't matter. You see the same use wear in points, you know. Some are battered, some exhibit really nice pressure retouch and flaking on them and notching, and the edges, you know, some of them just look horrid. Wildfire is not going to heat treat your flint. You'll probably get pretty disappointed. Okay. Well, it's not too bad for a classic Ohio Hopewell, I guess. Thing about Hopewell, they just really weren't picky about their notching. Not like dovetails or McCorkles, you know. They didn't seem to spend as much time worried about that base as other cultures or time frames showed. I mean, the Dina people just made stems, you know, stem points.
they're probably hungry.
Well, that's why I always said, you know, they ain't gonna mess around. They're gonna try to get this stuff made so they can eat. Okay, so,
Can we pass that around?
well, yeah, you can, but I'd like to just get the edge work finished, and then I can get on to core work.
Because these two guys.
Flint Ridge nap in, and admission's only like $5 a vehicle, so bring these boys out and they can sit down, and somebody, even myself, might even help them learn a little bit. And then we have one on Labor Day weekend. That's the big daddy. It's the biggest one in the world. So they can come out and get a seat. There's tools to be bought. There's, you know, we do demos on Saturday in the tent.
Where did you say that is?
It's at the Coshocton County Fairgrounds.
County Fair.
Clint, how far a drive is that?
He's with
2
Gary
hours.
Someplace.
Google my name and they'll, Ed Moran at Flint Ridge or Flint, now you'll see some videos of me years ago digging, explaining to a guy. I had a couple guys come in and go, hey, I want to do a video. And I'm like, I've not rehearsed anything. And he just, well, explain what this is and that is. So I did, you know, and we took one take and that's all it took. So I guess we just got lucky.
That's live.
My first demo was down in Newark, Ohio, or up in Newark from here, and it was for the Women's Rotary Club. I had never done a demo ever in my life. This was somewhere in the 90s, and I'm like, oh my gosh. It was like all my grandmothers were there. I think it's just one person. I wouldn't really, now the cool thing, it's some of these bigger Flint shows, we've taken a big piece of Flint and you get 3 hits, pass it on. 3 hits, pass it on. Well, beginners like, I don't want to do it, you know. And at one time, we kind of weeded out some of the guys like, oh, I'm not touching that no more, it's getting thin. And so I took two shots up the base and they're going, you're going to break it. And I said, no, no. It's still got some of that sugary stuff right in there. But we finished with this. Classic Ohio Hopewell point.
Right.
You can find that out in the field. And a couple things they would do is just take a small flake and I really would wish it had about 3 or 4 more inches to it, but you know, it wasn't really anything I did. It was just a stone, but as much as life, you don't give up. You know, you don't give up in life, so you want to keep going. So, and like I said, that other piece, the first piece that come off, I could make, where is that piece at?
Right down here.
Ah, Gary wanted a Cheshire point made. So, okay, we're going to pass that around. You could just glue that to a piece of wood, skin it down and just put a little slit in it. Just split the stick, slide that in there and put that with the hide glue. You can shave bark off a tree with that, limbs. You want to cut with it? Trust me, this is a razor blade. Actually, I won't do it because of young people here. But it will take hair off your arm. I mean, you got to shave. It's just like shaving. You could shave with this. I'm not going to recommend it, but it's.
The way you're holding that, light, that edge is almost translucent.
Oh yeah, that's because it's high grade material. It's got it's got a lot of silica inside. Where Flint Ridge State Memorial is, they call it the Crossroads. What used to be a blacksmith shop, now where Roy Miller's property is. He's got 7 acres right there. He digs on. Contour of the rock, but it doesn't happen unless there is a spine or a ridge back. You know.
Anybody that didn't get to photograph or handle this yet, I want to make sure I did try to circulate it.